So I recently flew to the farm where they grow our wheatgrass and convert it into a powder. And I have to say, it was an amazing trip. Talk about the quality of the soil, the quality of the processing, as you're about to see in this interview with the CEO of the farm. So the question is, why did you choose this location in Utah versus other places?
Okay. This valley was an ancient seabed, and this was under ocean water for a very, very long time.
So this next question relates to soils. It's the quality of the soil that the plant is grown on that determines the health of the plant and how much nutrition that plant is going to contain. Because the trace minerals and the minerals in the soil convert into vitamins and phytonutrients.
This used to be the bottom of Lake Bonneville. And so it was ocean for a very long time, then it was lake bed, inland sea for a very long time. And then about 10,000 years ago, Lake Bonneville drained. And since then we have a watershed, the severe watershed, that drains from big sections of central and southern, very rural Utah that has been evaporating in this valley for the last 10,000 years, depositing a tremendous amount of minerals. And those minerals not only give us a more nutrient-dense product from a trace mineral point of view, but also helps grow unusually healthy crops. In fact, dairy farmers in the surrounding area, even in Nevada and as far as California, will pay extra money for the same, what they call nutritional score.
So I wanted to ask the question, what is the difference between wheatgrass juice powder versus wheatgrass powder? And as you're going to find out, there is a huge difference. Check this out.
So, you know, I'm sitting here holding this blade of grass, and I love, and I have many people, when you get, especially when the grass is this good, we love to chew on it. Mm-hmm. It tastes good. It's sweet, it's delicious. But as I chew this grass, or as I eat this grass, something really important is going on. I'm chewing it. And when I chew this grass, I'm rupturing the cells. And if we think of fresh grass, think of water balloons, cells being like a water balloon. You have this membrane of cellulose that is not digestible by humans. Mm-hmm. I'm rupturing, I'm popping those water balloons, and I'm taking all the abundance of nutrients that are very digestible and assimilable, and I'm rupturing them, and I'm essentially juicing this grass in my mouth. As I chew it, I'm juicing the grass, and I'm taking that juice in, and I'm utilizing it. Think of this water balloon, it's now all shriveled up and dried out, and the nutrients that we need are essentially locked, encapsulated inside that membrane that we can't break down. If I juice it, I'm good, I can get those nutrients. But if I try and take in a dry product where that membrane has been shriveled around those cells, even with the fine grind, I'm only getting a portion of what I would get if I were chewing on fresh blade of grass or drinking the fresh juice. Yeah. In our case, the powder that's equivalent to fresh juice when reconstituted. The vast majority of the chemical compounds, the phytonutrients in this grass, we know nothing about. We will be learning about those things for centuries to come. Good point. In most of the food we eat, we cook it. We're drastically altering those chemical compounds. We're making them into something that our body may not be able to use. And in some cases, there's a benefit. Some nutrients are actually more available in cooked form. Well, I think we get plenty of those in our diet. Yeah. We're not short on whatever we get from cooked food. We get plenty of that. What most of us are short on in our busy hustle-bustle life are the nutrients in raw foods, especially nutrient-dense raw foods. Leafy greens in particular have abundance of nutrients that most of us do not get nearly enough of. And when you cook it, you're drastically changing those nutrients. And so our passion, our goal, is to produce a convenient product that retains the nutrients that I get when I chew on fresh cut grass. That's the goal.
So wheatgrass not only has vitamins and minerals and essential fatty acids and essential amino acids, but it has chlorophyll. and phytonutrients.
If we have high chlorophyll counts, we have found we'll have high beta carotene, we'll have high protein, we'll have high SOD or superoxide dismutase. If we have high chlorophyll, we have high nearly every other compound that we have found to be sensitive to some kind of processing condition.
But I wanted to measure the amount of phytonutrients and chlorophyll in our wheatgrass and compare that to the top 3 greens products on the market.
While we measure a lot of different things, we measure chlorophyll extensively. And so we measure it to determine how we're doing on the farm. It tells us when to harvest. If we harvest too early or too late, we don't get that maximum chlorophyll. And with it, the protein and all the other nutrients that we're aware of that have value.
So we use a third-party independent lab, and as you can see it in these graphs, our wheatgrass contains much more carotenoids, zeaxanthin, and chlorophyll.
Grass juice, I believe, because of the abundance of enzyme activity, is probably the most unstable juice I've ever encountered. And we process a lot of different fruits and vegetables, and most fruit and vegetable juices you could juice and put it in your refrigerator for a week or two and it would still be good. Grass juice is not like that. Juice it, put it in your refrigerator, and within 24 hours it's not very good anymore.
Interesting.
It's very, very unstable.
Wow.
We found that if we take 2 hours from the time to harvest it to the time we juice it, we lose significant quality. Just in that 2 hours.
Wow.
You wouldn't think 2 hours would matter. It really does.
Interesting.
And so we've gone to great lengths to figure out how to go from harvest to juicing as quickly as possible. And we're typically less than an hour.
So I wanted to bring up the question is, how can you make a wheatgrass virtually raw without heating it? Okay? And what you're about to find in this answer is an unbelievable process where they're able to take a liquid and turn it into a powder in less than 2 minutes under 106 degrees. That's the temperature of bath water. Check this out.
Once we juice the product, it breaks down, it goes bad. We start seeing it, drop in chlorophyll, it starts turning brown, it starts losing its fresh flavors and aromas. And so these are the things we pay very close attention to. What happens is at 106 degrees, if we take just fresh juice, you heat it to 106 degrees, over time we will see a gradual coagulation of the chlorophyll.
Wow.
At 110 degrees Fahrenheit, 4 more degrees, it's instant.
Wow.
Within a fraction of a second, the chlorophyll becomes coagulated and drops out of solution, and you get this yellow looking liquid.
Wow, that's interesting.
And so if we are not managing our machine properly, if the settings aren't quite right, if the operators aren't paying attention, if our instruments aren't calibrated, if we do anything wrong, we know it instantly.
That's the feedback, instant feedback.
Instant feedback. Our product off the machine will come back and we'll have what we call pore solubility.
Wow.
Which means we exceeded 106 degrees Fahrenheit.
So,
and the proof is in the solubility of the chlorophyll.
So you're talking a very short period of time, a few minutes, going from liquid to a dry material, but how much time would it go up to 106 degrees?
Product exceeds body temperature, 98.6, for just under 2 minutes. And so that's the time, because it enters our machine at about 35 degrees, and it comes out at 106 when it comes out.
Wow.
And then it goes through a process that instantly cools it down to around 75 to 80 degrees.
Yeah, and this wheatgrass is just, it stands out. I mean, when you drink it, it's just like, it just hits you. You just feel like you're satisfied. There's just like this kind of a innate knowingness, like, wow, this feels really good. Feels really good. And you have other types that just like, especially the wheatgrass powder, which is just doesn't do anything for me. But I do really appreciate the amount of work that you've done to pull this off, because I know as I was doing the little tour through everything, I'm like, this is a massive amount of work to first of all, figure it out, do the work, grow the product. I mean, There's not many people that go the distance to be able to pull that off. So I can come in there and just get the end product. It's a lot of work, so I really appreciate that.
Well, it's 20 years of
Blood, sweat, and tears.
blood, sweat, tears, but it's been rewarding.
The essence of your product is really low temperatures. I want to know how you came up with that. What made you come up with this lower temperature, like 106?
So it's actually kind of funny how this came to be. I grew up in the nutritional supplement industry, and many years ago, a customer came to us and said, and wanted us to produce a product that they were buying from another supplier and having some supply issues with. And the claims were this product was dried at 97 degrees Fahrenheit. Believing that, taking that at face value, we set out to do that. And it was not successful at first. We had actually years of trial and error. And eventually, we succeeded. And we actually dry at a 106 instead of 97 because we find that 106 is adequate. We don't gain anything by lowering the temperature. But ironically, many years later, we found out the claims were not even true.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
And so we did what we thought someone else was doing. And because we believed it could be done, we did it.
And I think people are concerned about gluten in wheatgrass juice powder, right? But that doesn't happen in a small baby grass.
Now, gluten exists in the grain, the actual seed itself.
Right.
And so, in addition to trying to maximize nutrition, our goal is to harvest the plant at the peak nutritional content. We also want to make sure there's no gluten. And occasionally you'll have a few plants that mature ahead of all the other plants and will produce a head early. And we just can't let that happen. So we have to harvest before there's any kind of formation of the actual seed or the kernel of the grain.
That's what I thought. Now, the plant cycle starts from a seed, a sprout, and then a larger and larger plant, right? So the peak nutritional profile is at a certain time. That's when you're harvesting. Is that is that part of the survival mechanism because you need all these phytonutrients to be able to build up, to survive, to grow into an adult plant?
In order to produce the head, the plant first tries to build nutrients that will later be converted to starches and sugars and ultimately produce the grain. The most number of seeds, the biggest, fattest seeds, that's the plant's goal, is to produce big fat seeds. To do that, it first will put out, it'll put out as much energy as it is able into producing lots of leaf and lots of chlorophyll, lots of protein. Those are the nutrients that we're after. So the plant is, for the first portion of its life cycle, it's simply trying to build that nutrition. Build, build, build. And it'll build as much as the soil and growing conditions will allow. And then at some point, it switches from, okay, now it's time to convert all those nutrients into essentially a grain. And stress will make that happen early. So if we can make that plant happy and healthy, from a survival point of view, is okay, we've got time, we've got resources, let's go ahead and produce lots of leaf, let's, produce and store up a lot of energy. So then when we go into produce a head mode, we can produce big fat seeds. From the plant's perspective, that's its goal. We harvest it just before that conversion process begins to take place.
So we're just
converting protein and chlorophyll and beta carotene and a lot of those kind of nutrients get converted to starch and sugar.
Wow. Well, I'm just so glad it came out because I'm able to see who's behind this amazing product, and I can see you're passionate, you put the work out, so I really appreciate that.
Well,
and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, this grass is so good you can actually even just eat it as a grass. Actually, I'd much prefer juicing up.